The Ark of the Covenant, one of the most mysterious and revered objects in biblical history. It is a symbol of divine presence, a vessel of holiness, and, according to some, a weapon of unimaginable power. Throughout the Old Testament, the Ark played a central role in the spiritual and military life of Israel, commanding both reverence and fear. But what was it really? Was it merely a sacred chest, or did it contain forces beyond human understanding? For centuries, the Ark has captivated historians, theologians, and seekers of ancient mysteries. Its descriptions in the Bible are striking. A box made of acacia wood, overlaid with pure gold, with 2 cherubim on its lid, the mercy seat, where the presence of God was said to dwell. It was carried on poles, never to be touched by human hands. Those who dared to disobey this command met swift and terrifying consequences. But beyond its sacred nature, the Ark exhibited a power that defied logic. It led the Israelites through the wilderness, brought down mighty cities, and even struck people dead. Was this power a manifestation of God's presence, or did the Ark itself possess supernatural properties? The most intriguing question, however, is what became of it. Once the most important object in Israel's history, it suddenly vanished from the biblical record. Did it disappear forever, or is it hidden, waiting to be rediscovered? And if it were found, what would that mean for the world today? This exploration into the Ark of the Covenant will take us through its origins, its power, its mysterious disappearance, and the theories surrounding its possible return. Whether it was a divine weapon or a sacred relic, its legacy continues to inspire awe and speculation. Let us embark on this journey into one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. To understand the mystery and power of the Ark of the Covenant, we must first examine its construction. Unlike ordinary religious artifacts, the Ark was designed with precision, following strict instructions given directly by God to Moses on Mount Sinai. Every detail, from the materials used to its dimensions and decorations, was part of a divine blueprint. But why? Was its purpose merely symbolic, or did its design serve a function beyond human understanding? The Bible describes the Ark in Exodus 25 verse 10 to 22. It was to be made of acacia wood, a durable and resilient material resistant to decay. This was no ordinary choice. Acacia wood was known for its strength, symbolizing incorruptibility and divine purity. The entire structure was overlaid with pure gold, both inside and out, signifying holiness and the divine nature of its contents. Gold, often associated with kingship and glory, reflected the Ark's sacred status as the earthly throne of God. The Ark's dimensions were also precise: 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high, approximately 3.75 feet long and 2.25 feet wide and high. Though small in size, its impact on history was immense. On top of the Ark rested the mercy seat, a solid gold cover flanked by 2 cherubim, their wings outstretched and facing each other. This was no mere decoration. According to the biblical account, the mercy seat was where God's presence would manifest, speaking to Moses from between the cherubim. The construction of the Ark was not just an artistic endeavor, but a reflection of divine order. The use of gold and acacia wood represented a fusion of the earthly and the heavenly, the physical and the spiritual. The cherubim, angelic beings guarding the mercy seat, were reminiscent of the guardians of Eden, suggesting that the Ark was a sacred meeting place between God and man. But beyond its symbolism, was there something more to its design? Some scholars and theorists have speculated that the materials used, gold, wood, and specific proportions, could hint at the Ark possessing unique physical properties. Could its construction have allowed it to conduct energy or even serve as a form of ancient technology? Was there a reason it was never meant to be touched directly? These questions lead us into the realm of mystery, where faith and science intersect. One thing remains certain: the Ark was no ordinary artifact. It was built according to divine specifications, carrying within it not only the tablets of the Ten Commandments, but also the weight of a covenant between God and his people. It was a sacred vessel, yet one that seemed to possess power beyond human comprehension. With its intricate design and supernatural associations, the Ark's purpose extended beyond being a mere container. But what exactly was the nature of its power? Was it simply a vessel of divine presence, or did it harbor something even more extraordinary? To answer this, we must examine the incredible events that surrounded it, the miracles, the judgments, and the forces that seemed to be unleashed whenever the Ark was present. The Ark of the Covenant was not just a sacred chest. It was an object that exhibited astonishing and often terrifying power. From the moment it was crafted, it played a central role in miraculous events, demonstrating capabilities that defied human comprehension. It led the Israelites through the wilderness, parted the waters of the Jordan River, and even caused the mighty walls of Jericho to crumble. But was this power a direct act of God, or did the Ark itself serve as a vessel of supernatural energy? One of the first demonstrations of the Ark's power occurred when the Israelites prepared to cross the Jordan River into the Promised Land. The Bible describes how the priests carrying the Ark stepped into the water, and at that moment, the river stopped flowing, allowing the people to cross on dry ground. This event mirrored the parting of the Red Sea during the Exodus, but in this case, the Ark was the focal point. The water's sudden retreat was not due to any natural phenomenon. It was a sign that God's presence, resting upon the Ark, was actively guiding his people. But the most famous and dramatic display of the Ark's power came at Jericho. God commanded Joshua and the Israelites to march around the city once a day for 6 days, carrying the Ark in a solemn procession. On the 7th day, they circled it 7 times, and at the sound of trumpets and a great shout, the walls of Jericho collapsed. The destruction of Jericho was not a conventional military victory. It was an event that showcased an unexplainable force. Could the Ark have been emitting some kind of energy, or was this purely an act of divine intervention? The idea that the Ark carried supernatural power is further supported by the accounts of those who suffered deadly consequences simply by touching it. The most well-known example is the story of Uzzah. As King David brought the Ark to Jerusalem, it was placed on a cart instead of being carried as God had commanded. When the oxen stumbled, Uzzah instinctively reached out to steady the Ark and was struck dead on the spot. His death was immediate and shocking, a reminder that the Ark was not to be treated as an ordinary object. Another chilling example occurred when the Philistines captured the Ark. After defeating the Israelites in battle, they took the Ark to the temple of their god Dagon. But disaster struck. Dagon's statue was found toppled, broken in pieces before the Ark. Soon after, plagues and afflictions spread through every Philistine city that housed the Ark, until they were forced to return it. The Philistines had stolen what they believed to be a powerful relic, yet it became a curse upon them. Was the Ark radiating divine judgment? Some theories suggest that the materials used in its construction, such as gold and wood, could have created an effect similar to an electrical capacitor, potentially discharging energy under certain conditions. Others believe that the Ark was a conduit of God's power, acting as a visible and tangible representation of his presence. Regardless of the explanation, the Ark of the Covenant was undeniably more than just a sacred artifact. It wielded a force that shaped the fate of nations, delivering miracles and destruction alike. Those who obeyed God's commands regarding the Ark experienced victory and divine favor, while those who mishandled it faced devastating consequences. But not everyone was allowed to approach the Ark. The Israelites were given strict instructions about who could carry it, how it was to be transported, and even where it was to be kept. This raises another question. Why was the Ark, so dangerous to those who are not permitted near it. To understand this, we must examine the sacred laws surrounding its handling and the consequences for those who disobeyed. Unlike other sacred items used in Israelite worship, the ark carried unique restrictions regarding who could approach it and how it had to be handled. These restrictions were not merely ceremonial, they were a matter of life and death. From the moment it was constructed, God made it clear that the ark was not to be touched by human hands. Numbers 4 verse 15 states that even the Levites, the priestly tribe set apart for sacred duties, could not touch the ark directly without facing death. Only a specific family within the Levites, the Kohathites, were allowed to carry the ark, and even they could not look inside it. When the ark had to be moved, it was covered with multiple layers of fabric, including a blue cloth and a covering of badger skins, before being placed on poles for transport. The command was absolute. Anyone who touched or looked into the ark improperly would die. One of the most well-known examples of this deadly consequence was the case of Uzzah. As King David attempted to bring the ark to Jerusalem, it was placed on an ox-drawn cart instead of being carried on poles as God had commanded. When the oxen stumbled, Uzzah reached out instinctively to steady the ark, and in that instant, he was struck dead by God's wrath. His death was shocking, even to David, who became afraid of the ark's power. But this incident was a clear demonstration of the ark's holiness. It was not to be treated like an ordinary object, and no human hand was worthy of touching it. Another chilling example is found in the account of the men of Beth Shemesh. After the Philistines returned the ark to Israel, some of the people of Beth Shemesh looked inside it, violating God's strict command. As a result, a great number of them perished. Their curiosity led to disaster, reinforcing the warning that the ark was not to be approached carelessly. But why was the ark so dangerous? Was it simply a matter of obedience, or was there something more to its lethal nature? Some believe that the ark's power was a direct manifestation of God's presence. Those who defied his commands were stepping into divine territory and could not survive the encounter. Others speculate that the ark itself may have had physical properties that could cause harm, possibly even discharging energy in a way that was fatal to anyone who touched it. Yet despite its danger, the ark was also a source of immense blessing and power when treated according to divine instructions. When it was kept in the house of Obed-Edom for 3 months after Uzzah's death, the Bible says that God blessed his household abundantly. This showed that the ark was not inherently destructive. It brought favor to those who honored its sanctity. The Ark of the Covenant was more than just a symbol of divine presence. It was a force that determined the fate of nations. Throughout Israelite history, the Ark played a central role in military campaigns, carried into battle as both a sacred object and a manifestation of God's power. When the Ark was present, victories were assured and enemies trembled in fear. The Israelites did not rely on mere weapons or strategy alone. They placed their trust in the Ark, believing it would bring divine intervention on the battlefield. One of the earliest and most famous military victories associated with the Ark was the Battle of Jericho. As the Israelites entered the Promised Land, the city of Jericho stood as an impenetrable fortress. God's command to Joshua was unusual. There would be no direct assault, no siege engines, and no prolonged warfare. Instead, the ark would be carried around the city in silence for 6 days, accompanied by priests blowing trumpets. On the 7th day, after circling the city 7 times, the priests sounded the trumpets, the people shouted, and the mighty walls of Jericho collapsed. The Israelites rushed in and took the city without a traditional battle. The ark's presence was enough to bring about victory, not through human effort, but by the overwhelming power of God. This was not the only instance where the ark demonstrated its might in warfare. Later, in the time of the Judges, Israel found itself engaged in conflict with the Philistines. The elders of Israel, desperate for victory, decided to bring the ark into battle at Ebenezer. They believed its presence alone would ensure triumph, but instead, disaster struck. The Philistines not only defeated Israel, but also captured the ark. 1 Samuel for verse 3 to 11. This shocking event demonstrated that the ark was not a magical object to be wielded at will. It was a representation of God's presence, and without obedience and faith, its power would not bring automatic success. However, even in enemy hands, the ark was not to be taken lightly. After the Philistines captured it, they placed it in the temple of their god, Dagon, in Ashdod. The next morning, Dagon's statue was found face down before the ark. When the Philistines set it upright, the following day, Dagon had fallen again, this time with its head and hands broken off. Plagues and afflictions spread through the Philistine cities wherever the ark was taken, until they were forced to return it to Israel. Despite its power, the ark did not guarantee military success when the Israelites failed to honor God. In the time of King Saul, it was largely neglected, and Israel suffered repeated defeats. It was only under King David that the ark was restored to its rightful place, leading to a period of renewed strength and divine favor. David understood that the ark was not a mere war relic, but the throne of the living God. When properly honored, the ark became an unshakable force, securing victory for those who walked in obedience. It was not an object to be wielded like a weapon, but a sacred presence that determined the destiny of nations. Its absence led to defeat, its presence brought triumph, and its misuse resulted in devastation. Yet, for all its military significance, there came a moment when Israel lost the ark to its enemies. This event, more than any other, raised profound questions about the ark's role in Israel's history. If it was so powerful, how could it be taken? And what happened when the most sacred object of Israel fell into foreign hands? One of the most devastating moments in Israelite history came when the Ark of the Covenant was captured by the Philistines. This sacred object, the very seat of God's presence among his people, was taken from Israel's hands in what seemed like an unimaginable defeat. How could something so holy, so powerful, fall into enemy possession? The answer lay not in the weakness of the ark itself, but in the spiritual condition of Israel at the time. The events leading up to the ark's capture took place during a time of great instability. The Israelites, under the leadership of Eli the high priest, were facing continuous struggles against the Philistines. During one particular battle at Ebenezer, the Israelites suffered a crushing defeat, losing about 4,000 men. In desperation, the elders of Israel made a fateful decision. They would bring the Ark of the Covenant from Shiloh to the battlefield, believing its presence would guarantee victory. The Ark arrived, accompanied by Hophni and Phinehas, the corrupt sons of Eli, and as it entered the camp, the Israelites let out a great shout that shook the ground. Even the Philistines were terrified, recognizing the Ark as the very object that had once struck fear into Egypt. But despite their fear, the Philistines did not flee. Instead, they resolved to fight with even greater intensity, and the result was catastrophic for Israel. 30,000 Israelite soldiers fell, including Hophni and Phinehas, and the Ark of the Covenant was taken 1 Samuel 4 verse 10 to 11. When news of this disaster reached Eli, the elderly high priest fell backward, broke his neck, and died. His daughter-in-law, upon hearing of the ark's capture, went into labor and named her child Ichabod, meaning the glory has departed from Israel, 1 Samuel 4 verse 21 to 22. The loss of the ark was seen as more than a military failure. It was a spiritual crisis of the highest order. While Israel mourned, the Philistines soon discovered that the ark was not a prize they could claim without consequence. They took it to Ashdod, placing it in the temple of their god Dagon. The next morning, Dagon's massive statue was found face down before the ark, as if bowing in submission. The Philistines set it back up, but the following day, they found it fallen again, this time with its head and hands broken off. This was not a coincidence. It was a divine sign that the God of Israel reigned supreme. The situation only worsened. A plague broke out in Ashdod, striking the people with painful tumors. Fearing that the ark was the cause, the Philistines moved it to Gath, but the same afflictions followed. Desperation set in, and they sent it to Ekron. But by this time, terror had spread, and the people of Ekron refused to receive it, fearing for their lives. The Philistines, once triumphant in battle, were now crippled by disease, death, and fear. The ark, which they had believed to be their greatest war trophy, had become a source of horror. After 7 months of suffering, the Philistine leaders gathered and decided that the ark must be sent back to Israel. But fearing further divine punishment, they sought a way to return it with an offering, hoping to appease the God of Israel. They placed the ark on a new cart, hitched to 2 cows that had never been yoked, and added golden replicas of the tumors and rats that had plagued them as a guilt offering. The cows, without any human guidance, miraculously walked straight toward Beth Shemesh, an Israelite town, proving to the Philistines that their afflictions had truly been the work of God. For Israel, the return of the ark should have been a moment of celebration, but it also came with a reminder of its holiness. Some men of Beth Shemesh, overcome with curiosity, looked inside the ark, directly violating God's command. As a result, a great number of them perished. The Israelites, recognizing the ark's awesome power, sent word to the people of Kiriath Jearim, where it was taken to the house of Abinadab, remaining there for 20 years. The capture and return of the ark demonstrated an undeniable truth. The ark was never an object to be controlled or used as a mere weapon of war. Its power did not come from human hands, nor could it be manipulated for selfish gain. The Israelites had treated it as a lucky charm, assuming that its presence alone would bring victory, without considering their own faithfulness to God. The Philistines, on the other hand, had underestimated its significance, believing they could possess it like any other religious relic. Both learned the hard way that the ark belonged to God alone, and its presence carried consequences, both blessings and judgment. Although the ark had been restored to Israel, it no longer held the same public role it once did. Instead of being placed back in the tabernacle at Shiloh, it remained in relative obscurity for years. But this would not be the end of its journey. In time, the ark would find a new resting place, one that would define its role for generations to come. The Ark of the Covenant, once the most sacred and powerful object in Israel's history, eventually disappeared without a definitive explanation in the biblical record. Unlike other significant artifacts of Israelite worship, such as the bronze altar or the menorah, the ark is never explicitly mentioned again after a certain point. Where did it go? Was it hidden? Destroyed? Taken to another land? For centuries, scholars, archaeologists, and treasure hunters have sought to uncover the fate of the ark, but its true location remains one of history's greatest mysteries. The last clear biblical mention of the ark's presence is during the reign of King Josiah in the 7th century BC. Josiah, known for his religious reforms, commanded that the Levites return the ark to the temple in Jerusalem, suggesting that it had been removed at some point prior to his rule. However, when the Babylonians destroyed Solomon's temple in 586 BC, the ark is notably absent from the list of treasures that were taken to Babylon. This silence has fueled endless speculation. Did the priests hide it before the invasion? Was it taken away to a foreign land? Or was it lost forever in the chaos of Jerusalem's fall? One theory suggests that the ark was hidden somewhere beneath the Temple Mount before the Babylonian invasion. According to Jewish tradition, King Solomon may have foreseen the eventual destruction of the temple and constructed a hidden chamber to conceal the ark in a secure location. This idea is supported by the fact that when the Second Temple was built after the Babylonian exile, the Holy of Holies was empty. There was no mention of the Ark being placed inside. Some believe that the Ark could still be buried deep beneath the ruins of the temple, awaiting discovery. Another theory claims that the Ark was transported to Egypt before the fall of Jerusalem. Some researchers point to the book of 2 Maccabees 2 verse 4-8, which states that the prophet Jeremiah took the Ark and hid it in a cave on Mount Nebo in modern-day Jordan. According to this account, the location would remain unknown until God chooses to reveal it. However, this is an apocryphal text and is not included in the Hebrew Bible, leaving its historical accuracy uncertain. One of the most famous and controversial theories is that the Ark was taken to Ethiopia and remains there to this day. Ethiopian tradition, as recorded in the Kebra Nagast, claims that the Ark was brought to the city of Axum by Menelik I, the supposed son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. According to this legend, Menelik visited his father in Jerusalem and secretly took the Ark back to Ethiopia, where it has been kept in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion for centuries. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church firmly upholds this belief and asserts that the Ark is guarded by a single monk, known as the Keeper of the Ark, who remains in isolation for life. However, no independent verification has been allowed, leaving this claim unproven. Some have even speculated that the Ark was taken to Europe. A popular theory among the Knights Templar legends suggests that during the medieval period, the Ark may have been discovered in the Holy Land and later transported to a secret location, possibly in France or Scotland. These claims, however, are largely based on myths and lack substantial evidence. Despite centuries of searches and countless theories, no definitive proof has ever been found regarding the Ark's location. Whether it was hidden, taken to another land, or destroyed, its absence only deepens its mystery. Yet, for many, the Ark is more than a lost relic. It is a symbol of divine power and covenant. Its disappearance has not diminished its significance, and for some, the question remains, will the Ark ever return? The disappearance of the Ark of the Covenant has not only fueled historical speculation, but has also led to significant eschatological discussions. Could the Ark, hidden for centuries, be destined to reappear before the end of time? Is there any biblical indication that it plays a role in future events? Many believe that its return would signal the fulfillment of divine prophecy and mark a turning point in human history. One of the most intriguing references to the Ark in the context of the end times appears in the book of Revelation. In Revelation 11 verse 19, after the sounding of the seventh trumpet, John describes a vision of heaven. Then the temple of God was opened in heaven, and the ark of his covenant was seen in his temple. And there were lightnings, noises, thunderings, an earthquake, and great hail. This passage raises profound questions. Is this vision a literal indication that the ark exists in heaven, separate from any earthly location? Or could it suggest that the ark will be revealed on earth as part of God's final plan? Some interpret this verse symbolically, seeing the ark as representing God's enduring covenant with his people rather than a physical object. However, others believe it could hint at the ark's reappearance in a future prophetic event. Another perspective comes from Jewish tradition. Many Jewish scholars and rabbis hold that the ark will be revealed in connection with the rebuilding of the Third Temple in Jerusalem. The absence of the ark in the Second Temple, built after the Babylonian exile, has led some to speculate that its rediscovery would be essential for the restoration of proper worship in a future temple. This idea aligns with passages such as Ezekiel 40-48, which describe a future temple in great detail. If the ark were to be found, it could serve as a catalyst for the fulfillment of messianic prophecies and the renewal of the sacrificial system. A contrasting view is found in Jeremiah 3 verse 16, where the prophet declares, "Then it shall come to pass, when you are multiplied and increased in the land in those days, says the Lord, that they will say no more, the ark of the covenant of the Lord, it shall not come to mind, nor shall they remember it, nor shall they visit it, nor shall it be made any more." This suggests that the ark will become irrelevant in the future, possibly due to the establishment of a new covenant that surpasses the old one. If this prophecy applies to the Messianic era, it may indicate that the ark, even if rediscovered, would no longer hold the same significance it once did. Instead, God's presence would be fully realized in a new and greater way. Despite these varying interpretations, the ark remains a symbol of divine authority, power, and holiness. If it were found today, it would undoubtedly have immense religious, political, and spiritual consequences. It could ignite tensions over its rightful ownership, particularly between religious groups with different eschatological beliefs. Some would see it as a confirmation of biblical truth, while others might attempt to use it for their own purposes. Ultimately, whether or not the ark physically reappears, its significance endures. It represents the unbreakable covenant between God and his people, the mysteries of divine power, and the unfolding of God's plan throughout history. If the ark is indeed tied to future events, its return would not be an isolated discovery. It would be a sign of something far greater, a moment that could change the world forever. The Ark of the Covenant has captivated human imagination for centuries. It has been sought after by treasure hunters, studied by theologians, and depicted in countless books and films. But beyond the legends and speculation, beyond the search for its physical location, the Ark carries a deeper message, one that transcends time, geography, and even its own material existence. Its true power is not found in golden cherubim or mysterious energies, but in what it reveals about the nature of God and his relationship with mankind. At its core, the Ark was never meant to be a mere artifact of worship. It was a symbol of God's presence among his people. When it rested in the Holy of Holies, it served as the focal point of Israel's faith, a tangible reminder that the God of heaven dwelled among them. It was where God spoke to Moses, where divine mercy was extended on the Day of Atonement, and where the covenant was physically kept. Yet, as history unfolded, it became clear that the Ark itself was not the source of Israel's power. God was. The history of the Ark teaches a crucial lesson. Faith and obedience matter more than objects and rituals. When Israel treated the Ark as a sacred trust and followed God's commands, it brought them victory and blessing. But when they treated it as a magical talisman, expecting it to work apart from their faithfulness, disaster followed. This was evident when the Ark was lost to the Philistines and when men perished for handling it improperly. The Ark itself was not a weapon to be wielded at human will. It was a testament to the power and holiness of God. Even its disappearance holds significance. If the Ark still existed today, it would likely become a source of division, conflict, and idolatry. People might fight over its ownership, seek to use it for political power, or place their hope in it instead of in the one it represented. Perhaps that is why it vanished, so that humanity would not seek a golden box, but instead seek the living God. The Ark also foreshadowed something greater, the coming of Jesus Christ. In the New Testament, Christ himself became the ultimate meeting place between God and man. Just as the Ark contained the covenant tablets, Jesus embodied the new covenant, offering a way for all people to experience God's presence, not just through a sacred object, but through a personal relationship. In John 1 verse 14, it says, "The Word became flesh and dwelt among us," using the same word that described God's presence dwelling over the Ark in the Old Testament. No longer was the presence of God confined to a single nation or a physical structure. Through Christ, it was made accessible to all. For believers today, The message of the Ark is clear: God is still present. We do not need to seek him through lost relics or hidden treasures. His power is not contained in objects, but in his Spirit, his word, and his promises. The covenant written on stone tablets has been fulfilled in a covenant written on human hearts. The mercy seat of the Ark has given way to the mercy found in Christ. The true power of the Ark is not in its gold, its dimensions, or its mysterious fate. Its true power is in what it represents: the faithfulness of God, the importance of obedience, and the reality of his presence among his people. Whether or not the Ark is ever found, its message remains: God has never abandoned his covenant, and his presence is still with those who seek him. If you found this video insightful, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future content on biblical mysteries and spiritual insights. Don't forget to like the video, as it helps share this message with more people. Leave a comment below. What do you think happened to the Ark? Could it still exist today? Finally, share this video with your friends and family so they too can explore the profound history and meaning behind the Ark of the Covenant. Thank you for watching, and may you continue to seek truth, wisdom, and the presence of God in your life.